What's up, guys? Stefan, S&E's Garage. Behind us we have our Kia Forte. Things aren't looking too good. So first and foremost, we were able to deep charge this battery last night, and it actually came back. It's holding strong at 12.6 volts even with a load on it. I've been running the car for a little bit, and that's where we ran into some trouble. Now this morning it had a very weird issue where you would start it and it would shut right off. If you gave it some throttle, it would stay running. I finally got it to clear up, but when it cleared up, it coded up. So it set some codes for me that put me in a direction that I need to be looking at, and we're gonna go ahead and look at them now. I'm just gonna go ahead and start it. Okay, and you'll see we have a check engine light, we have a battery light, airbag light, and a TPMS light. Those are all the same lights we had on the last video, except in the last video we did not have the check engine light. Now originally I had thought maybe I ran out of gas because it was down below the E, so we went ahead and we put a couple gallons in it. We got it to read, and it was still having an issue. At this point I should have just grabbed my camera and showed you guys what I was doing, but I had some other stuff going on, so I couldn't get to the camera. But now we're at the camera. So what we're gonna do, we're using our XTOOL IP508. This is a great scan tool for entry-level diagnosis and just for around the house. So that's what we're using today right now because it's just the easiest one for me to grab. But we're gonna go ahead and auto scan this. And we're gonna see what kind of codes we pull. We're gonna select USA, automatic scan, and let's just go ahead and let it scan. All right, guys, and we are greeted here with a list of codes. So let's just go ahead to DTC report, and you'll see here, let's see, we have a P0138 O2 sensor high voltage, bank 1 sensor 2. We have a crank position, camshaft position correlation, bank 1 sensor B exhaust. That one's a little bit scary. That's P0017. And the rest of these are just battery voltage low because of the issue that we had here with the alternator that right now looks like might have fixed itself because the battery light's off. But to make a long story short, we're gonna go ahead and check that rear, the exhaust side. Where's Maverick at? There he is. Hey, buddy. So we're gonna go ahead and check this exhaust side oil control valve. It is on the back side of the engine. It's held in with one 10mm bolt. We're gonna go ahead, pull that out, and bring it inside, and we're gonna do some tests on it. Being that I had an issue where it wouldn't run this morning and now it's running okay, I'm thinking that it might be stuck internally. Yes, buddy. Yeah, let's go say hi to Maverick really quick. What are you doing, buddy? Daddy's making a video, bud. What are you doing? I love having a family, it's great. But let's go ahead. Let's pull that oil control valve. Let's bring it inside, and we're gonna do some tests on it. All right, guys, so the diagnosis for this P0016 that we have is going to be very similar for a P0017, a P0011, and a P0014. They're basically all going to have to do with the timing system here, whether it's your oil control valve on the intake or the exhaust, or something to do with your cam position sensors, which are back here up under this engine cover. But we're not going to be looking at that route yet. We're going to check the more common thing that I'm familiar with here, that I've actually replaced a ton of, and that is the oil control valves. Now, on some of these engines, you can actually swap them from front to back and see if the code follows, but on this vehicle you cannot do that because of the angle that this plug is at is different than the one in the back. So we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to pull it and inspect it, you know, ohm it out, things like that. But the first thing you want to do if you have any of these timing codes is pull your dipstick, check your oil level. If you have low oil level, those timing codes are actually because the cylinder head is starving of oil. And the valve timing isn't going to be right because the oil control valves can't send enough oil to do what they need to do. So if for some reason you pull your dipstick, it's low on oil, top the car off, clear the codes, and drive it a little bit before you go any further with your diagnosis, because that may just be your problem. Now, because of how dirty this oil looks, after we are done with this repair and a couple of other repairs that we need to do in this engine that have to do with the oiling system, we are going to be changing the oil. What we have here is a Hyundai Genuine oil filter. I always recommend using original equipment oil filters, especially on cars that use oil-controlled variable valve timing, because if the relief valve or something in this filter is not right, oil pressure is going to be off and it's not going to run right. So I always use original equipment filters when I can, and I never have a problem. So like I said, this oil control valve is located right here. Here's where it lives, and there's one 10mm that holds it in. We're going to go ahead, rip it out, go in the garage. Alright guys, so here we have our oil control valve, and the first thing that I want you to notice is the metal screen that's supposed to be on this guy right here is disintegrated and gone. So number one, that's not a good thing. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put it up here on the toolbox, and we're going to go ahead and check resistance across those two pins, and we're going to see what kind of resistance values we have. So as far as resistance is concerned, we have 8 ohms here, and that is right in spec. So as far as the windings in here are concerned, this thing is okay. So the next step to diagnose this is to go ahead and put power to it. So we're going to supply 12 volts to this, and we should hear a nice audible click, and we should see the solenoid in there moving nice and free. And if it doesn't do that, then we know that there's an issue inside of this solenoid. So here we have it. We have our meter leads going here. Just going to turn this switch on, and this solenoid is not doing anything. Let's see if we smack it around a little bit and try again. So now it seems to be working after I smacked it around a little bit, but I'm thinking that this thing is on its way out, because it wasn't working before until I smacked it. So what I'm thinking we have is an intermittent issue with this thing that's causing the car to code up and not run right intermittently. These are cheap enough, about 50 bucks, so I'm gonna order one. Before we do our alternator or do anything else on this car, I wanna get that engine running right, because if the engine's not running right, then there's no use in doing anything else until we fix that, whether I need to put a timing chain in it or a cam phaser. We'll check the base time at some point, but I want to put an oil control valve in it first and see if that fixes it. So we're going to go ahead and order one of them. Once I get it, we'll resume this video, and then we'll see where we're at. Alright guys, so what we purchased here is an NTK oil control valve. NTK is a original equipment manufacturer for parts like this, so that is what we went with. Here are the numbers on it. I'm going to go ahead and leave one of these in the video description below. Like I said, this will be for the exhaust side. That is the rear bank, and it is held in with one 10mm bolt, which is right down here in this area. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to remove the old one just like we did when we tested it, and we are going to install the new one, and we're going to start the car and see how it runs. So I always like to put my old part next to my new part, just compare them, make sure everything's okay. I even off camera went ahead and ohmed this one out, and it was at 7.6 ohms, and the spec is between 6 and 8-ish if I remember. So we are well within specifications here, so we're going to go ahead, slip this new one in, and plug it in. Alright guys, we have a running here. You'll see the engine is running nice and smooth. I'm not having my startup issue anymore. So this solenoid fixed our P0016. Now this diagnosis will work for a P0016 or a P0017. So I am going to link both of those in the video description below. And I'm also going to, like I said, I'll link all the parts that we used in that video description below as well. Now do stay tuned here because we do have some parts in stock for this car. Now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna tackle that alternator. We're gonna tackle that bank 2 or bank 1 sensor 2 oxygen sensor. We got our new tire and wheel here to put on, and we're gonna get rocking and rolling on this thing. So please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.